The Dershow.
Any student who calls for genocide against Jews, any student who says, I am Hamas, any student who says, I want to make sure that there are 10,000 October 7th should be expelled. They may have a right to say it, but they have no right to be a student. They have no right to be at a university. Apply the same rule you would apply if people said, we want 10,000 lynchings of blacks. Apply the same rules you would apply if people said, we're going to send gays to the gas chambers. No, you're not applying the same rule. You're applying a different rule for Jews. That's not acceptable. You cannot apply a different rule for Jews. Now, Elie Wiesel said, and we all know this, that, first they come for the Jews, but the Jews are the first, but they're never the last. Hamas is coming to a theater near you. There will be Hamas violence in the United States if these lawless activities are permitted. And some of the people who are engaged in these lawless activities will engage in violence against Jews and against non-Jews. This student who was suspended by Columbia, thankfully, after he was caught on videotape saying Zionists should not be allowed to live, just like Nazis should not be allowed to live, and racists and fascists shouldn't be allowed to live. Zionists shouldn't be allowed to live, and I wouldn't be upset if the Zionists died. A student like that is very likely to take the next step and say, if they shouldn't live, what can I do about that? Well, I can help kill them. And would you want a student like that in your dormitory? Would you want a student like that in your daughter's dormitory if your daughter was Jewish? I don't think so. Would you want your daughter, if she was Jewish and in a dorm, to have an Israeli flag on her door or a mezuzah, the symbol of God that Jews wear, that Jews put on their doors, to identify themselves as Jews? Would you want your son to wear a kippah if he were an Orthodox Jew, and if he lived in the same dorm as this person who said Zionists shouldn't be allowed to live? I don't think so. And so let's look at who's funding. Let's look at Mein Kampf, and that's what's going on at Columbia. It has become Mein Kampf. It has become a place where a Nazi is more comfortable than a Jew. It's become a place where anti-Jewish racists fit more comfortably than Jewish anti-racists. And that's a scandal. That's a scandal, and it has to stop. And if they don't stop it, we have to do something about it. Some of them saying, we're doing it for free speech. Nonsense. Would they join a demonstration for free speech for pro-Israel activists? No, of course not. And these faculty members who are encouraging their students to break the law and to violate university policies, those are grounds for denying a professor tenure or withdrawing tenure if you violate the rules of the university. But will Columbia do it? No, of course not. They're negotiating. That's been the biggest problem we have of negotiating with terrorists or negotiating with radical law violators. Columbia should have stepped in immediately. No class should ever be canceled because of protesters. No graduation should ever be canceled because of protesters. The school should call in as much security as necessary, escort Jewish students to class the way black students were escorted to class in the 1950s and the 1960s. You don't let racists and bigots, whether they be Southern anti-black bigots or Northern Columbia student anti-Semitic and anti-Jewish bigots, you don't let bigots get their way and destroy a university or prevent students from going to class or prevent people from graduating. People want to enjoy graduation. They want to take pride in what their children have accomplished. And there are going to be a lot of people, even if Columbia conducts this graduation, if it carries through with its threats to deny certification and to suspend students academically if they didn't comply with the order of the university, there are going to be students who won't graduate. Good.